Thanks for joining me today on Evolving Women. If this conversation stirred something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a woman who's ready to rise. And if you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss next week's story of reinvention. Your next chapter is calling, and you don't have to answer it alone. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Evolving Women. I'm Teresa Lisum, and I'm here with my guest co-host today, Nancy Norbeck. Hi, Nancy.
Hey there.
Welcome, welcome. I'm so delighted to see you in your little closet studio. You'll have to share with us about that space that you've created for yourself.
Yeah, so this is my closet. It's just an ordinary closet, and it is my studio. And it became my studio because I live in a two-bedroom condo and I was starting a podcast. So you need a quiet place to start a podcast. And when I started Follow Your Curiosity, there were downstairs from me two toddlers and two dachshunds and their parents. But those two little kids and those two dogs made an unholy amount of noise.
I bet.
And I thought, if I'm going to do this, I need a quiet place. And I obviously wasn't going to wait for a studio because if I had done that, I'd still be waiting. And
Mhm.
the only place that I could think of that they were not likely to be under at any given moment was the closet. So I set this up with a couple of TV tables and my chair, and there is just enough room for me in here once I've got it all set up. But it works beautifully, and I've been
I
doing it for
absolutely love it.
almost 8 years now. So
Oh, wow.
so here we are.
I love that you started where you could start. You weren't waiting for the perfect time, the perfect place, the perfect environment, and you just went.
Yeah,
So go you. That's a good message for so many people to hear. You don't have to wait. If you decide you want to do something, you just figure out a way and make it happen.
yeah. Perfect is almost never going to come, and neither is ready. So
Oh my God, that
you just
is
go.
so wise what you said right there. We always think we need to be readier than we are or will ever be. Just like starting every episode for me, like, am I ready? Like, I don't know, just go for it and see what happens. But I love that. You just have to take a chance and start and see where it goes and figure it out on the journey, on the path as you move forward. And you will evolve as you proceed and
That's
figure it
right.
out. I love that. So you do have a your own podcast, Follow Your Curiosity. I love that title, and I love that you're a creativity coach. I love that, and I love that one of your tag phrases is "make bad art." Please share with us about that.
Yeah, so the thing about making art, whatever your art is, and I define creativity really, really broadly because way too many of us define it too narrowly and we define
Yes.
ourselves
Yep.
right out of it.
Yep.
So I have interviewed all of the usual suspects. I have interviewed photographers and painters and writers and musicians, but I also have interviewed mathematicians and software engineers and my
Mm.
cousin, the forensic accountant, because I kept telling her, listen, I know there's something creative about accounting and you've not just the bad joke that you hate, and I need you to come and tell us what it is. But, the thing is, you cannot make good art if you are not willing to make bad art first.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
exhibit A for that is every child you have ever seen in your life, including the one that you used to be. Because none of us arrived on this planet doing anything well.
Yeah.
Not
Yep.
speaking, not walking, not
Yep.
dressing ourselves, not drawing, not anything. We
Mm-hmm.
all started out doing it all really badly. We took our first steps and we fell flat on our
Yep.
face.
Yep.
And so if you are not willing to make bad art, you will never get to the point where you are able to make good art. It's not going to happen. And going back to the willingness to make bad art is how you will release that horrible inner critic voice that so many of us have
Mm-hmm.
because we live
Mm-hmm.
in this criticism culture that wants to, say, oh, but this thing is out of line and this little bit is slightly off center, and all of that. We look at Instagram, the never ending scrolling judgment app, all day long, some of us,
Mm-hmm.
and it just fuels this idea that everything we do has to be perfect.
Yes, yes, yes.
And then when we sit down to do the thing that we want to do for fun, that voice is sitting back here going, that's not
Mm-hmm.
right, that's not right, that's not good enough, that's not. And the easiest way that I know of to turn that voice off is to sit down and say, you know what, I'm going to do bad art. Because when you sit down and you say, I'm going to write this poem and I'm going to make it bad, that voice has nothing to say to you. Because how can it? You're not
Right,
trying to do it
right.
well. And so it's just sort of sitting there looking for the thing to criticize, but you're not trying to make it perfect. So what can it say?
Oh my
And
gosh.
it opens up all sorts of room for you to experiment and try new things. And ironically, for the good art to come out in the process. The challenge is that you can't go into it hoping that the good art will come out, because then the inner critic will come back. But yeah, it works really, really well if you are willing to genuinely sit down and say, today I am going to do whatever your thing is badly.
I love that. And you're giving yourself permission to do a poor job. And like you said, it kind of takes the air out of that inner critic, like, oh
Yeah.
man, there's
Yeah.
nothing I could criticize about.
Yeah, your inner critic can go off to summer camp and, entertain itself on the ropes course while you get to play and have fun and see what you discover.
Oh my God, I love
Yeah.
this. And I love when you were referencing kids. We give kids permission to fall down and get up and make mistakes and try again and again. And we encourage them. And we're like, oh, come on, come on. And then, but we don't do that for ourselves as adults. Like, I think our expectation is, as because we're an adult, we should be able to pick up anything new and be really skilled at it because we're an adult. And that is just thinking that does not serve us in any way, shape, or form.
Right, right. We think that we should be able to do everything perfectly as adults, and we think that all of that playful creativity that we see in kids is just for kids.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I know.
it's two sides of a really, really icky, unhelpful coin.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know why we do that to ourselves. And I also love that you said we define creativity or we put limits or we put it in a box. And once you leave childhood, just close up in a box completely and put it aside. And we never need to go back to it because that's for kids. That's just, I mean, I'm one that, I lead laughter sessions where, let your inner child come out to play and be vulnerable and laugh. And that's hard for a lot of people. Like it's almost scary sometimes. I think the same thing with the creativity. And like you said, we have this stereotype of what a creative person looks like. Oh, somebody that is really good at guitar, somebody who can paint beautifully, somebody who can sing. Because adults define it that way. And I'm so loving that you're like breaking that.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's like there is this invisible wall that is supposed to come down at a certain age that says, nope, you're done with this. This part of your
Yeah, yeah,
brain
yeah.
is
Right.
officially cut off. But it's
Right.
not, right? Like
Hmm.
if we really were supposed to give up creativity and play at a certain age, then that part of our brain would just naturally stop. Just like, the human brain has the ability to learn a language at any age, but your ability to learn it as well as a native speaker diminishes right around puberty. Like you can still learn it fluently, but you can't pick it up as well as a native
Hmm.
speaker. Now that's a number that I heard 30 years ago. It may have changed since then, but work with me here. But like there are plenty of things that that other animal species lose the ability to do once they are adults. But and that, probably that we do too. But creativity and play are not one of them. So if we were really supposed to lose that and stop doing it as adults, it would go away. And we
Mm-hmm.
don't. And it is a cultural, societal belief
Oh, yeah.
that this is something that is not for you anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
there are so many people who will say to me, "Oh, I don't have a creative bone in my body. I'm
Yes,
not creative at
yes,
all." And I'm just kind of
yes.
looking at them going, "Well, you seem to be breathing, so I think you're
Yeah.
probably wrong." Because we define it so narrowly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
these people are solving, so many problems every day, coming up with a creative solution. Something breaks and you are figuring out how to jerry
Yep.
rig it because you have to in the moment. That is creativity in action.
Mm.
Just because it doesn't come with a paintbrush or a musical
Yes.
instrument attached to
Yes.
it does not make it not creative. And yet these people, and I say that because I don't have a better term, not because I'm judging them. But when people do that, they're kind of clinging to this not creative identity, and it breaks my heart because it's like, no,
Mm-hmm.
no, you really are this thing.
Yeah.
And there's something that has taught them that they aren't that thing and that it's not safe to be that
Mm.
creative thing. And I think it's just tragic because, every organization in the world right now is fixated on, innovation, which is the
Mm-hmm.
word that businesses use because they're afraid to say the word creative.
Mm.
And, they're trying to come up with new ideas all the time. They want this stuff in their businesses and in their employees. But meanwhile, they're they've got all of these people who have been fed this lie that they're not creative,
Right, right. Oh my
and
God.
they're
You're
attached to it, and the system perpetuates itself because, among other things, definitions of professional default to words like innovative, when creativity and play, if you don't have creativity and play, you don't have innovation. It's just, it
Mm.
doesn't work that way.
I love that. I love that you just pointed out that they're looking for that. That gives them the cutting edge. You always have to come up with something new and different. But yet, and I was a public school teacher for a very long time.
You and me
So
both.
it's been a while since I've been in there in that field, but it seems to me that we train conformity, we program conformity into kids so that they're not thinking for themselves, they're not being creative, but yet then when they get into the work world, we want them to be creative. So it's like there's this contrasting thing going on there.
Yeah, I mean, I taught at a private school, so it was a little bit different, but a
Hmm.
lot of it's the same. It's still, you've got kids sitting in rows in a lot of classrooms.
Yep.
Everybody's
Yep.
a slave to the bell. All of that kind of stuff that is, it harks back to the Industrial Revolution when public school
Mm,
was supposed to
mm.
set people up to go work in
Good
factories.
point.
And
Good point.
Lord knows, teachers, love teachers, was one, love you all,
Yep.
are
Yep.
trying really hard to break out of a lot of that. But while you're still a slave to the bell system and all of that, it's still there. But like you say, societally, we kind of have this weird sort of contradictory thing going on. We
Hmm.
say we want this stuff, but we're still, too much in these other ideas that say we want this innovation, but we're not going to let you play.
Right. Well, what is it? What do you
What?
want then?
Yeah, make it make sense, please.
So let me get your thoughts on this. Okay, so we become an adult, we put all of that stuff aside, we're trained or programmed, whatever word you want to use, not to be playful and creative because it's not professional or whatever. How do you think that relates to people's stress level?
Oh, how long do we have? Um, so let me answer this in a slightly backwards way. my belief and what I have seen and experienced for myself and with other people is that creativity is the fastest path back to yourself.
Love that.
And that's because when you're doing something creative, you get to make all of the choices and you
Mm-hmm.
get to feel the experience. Even if it's just that you're coloring in a coloring book, do you want to stay inside the lines? Do
Mm-hmm.
you want blue or do you want green or do you want to combine blue and green and maybe a little bit of purple? What exactly do you want here? Because you are the one making the rules and you get to make the decisions and follow what feels right to you, and you get to engage in that play. And that play usually is connected to something that you did as a kid that you forgot about and that you haven't done in a long time. So it reconnects you to that part of yourself at the same time. And, the reason that we get stressed out, and there are many, but one of the big reasons that we get stressed out that we don't think about and we don't notice because we have been told that creativity is not important and that it's a luxury
Mm-hmm.
and it's just a
Mm-hmm.
nice thing to have
On the side. Yeah.
is because we are not engaging with our creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Creativity is not a
Mm-hmm.
luxury. Creativity is an energy source.
Love that too.
And
Oh.
the more we engage with it, I mean, seriously, if I were sitting with, your audience right now, and I said, look, take out a piece of paper and a pen, pencil, colored pencils, whatever you have handy and you like, and spend 5 minutes just doodling, playing, whatever, odds are really good at the end of that 5 minutes, your energy level would be different. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
listening to this, you can do this for yourself right now as an experiment and see what
Mm-hmm.
happens.
Yeah.
But when you really get into that thing that you love, pretty much anybody who does this on a regular basis can tell you your energy goes up. You get into the moment, you get into that flow state, and your curiosity rises. And as soon as your curiosity goes up, you're noticing things, you're excited about things, and that's where your energy, all of these things are interrelated. And so when you engage in your creativity, your energy level goes up. And so
Mm-hmm.
when you're feeling exhausted, this is the backwards thinking that we all have about this. You come home from work, you're stressed out, and you really want to work on your writing, you want to practice your piano, you haven't played your favorite Mozart sonata in a while, whatever. You want to cook something because you love cooking in the kitchen. Cooking is incredibly creative and
Oh, it
often not
certainly is.
recognized that way.
It
You know,
certainly is.
you want to go to your improv group, but you're just exhausted. You think you don't have the energy and you're going to skip it. But the fact is that you don't have the energy because you haven't gone and done the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you go do the thing, even if you feel like you have to drag yourself to do it, your energy level is going to go up.
Mm-hmm.
And that will fuel you to deal with the stress better. But we think that because we're exhausted, we can't go do the thing. Now,
Right,
obviously,
right.
this is a generalization. There are circumstances in which this doesn't necessarily apply, but by and large, the solution to your exhaustion is to go do the thing you love. It will
Mm.
make you feel better and it will help you reconnect with yourself. And, that all starts to spiral in an upward pattern after a while.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, so many good things here. And I really think when you take the time to do that 5 minute creativity activity, whatever it is, adult coloring, whatever, I love that you brought that up. Just that simple act of coloring, you're in control of some decisions, you are being creative. But to me it's a real mindfulness practice. You're in the moment, you're not worried about things that happened already, you're not worried about things in the future. You're in that moment, in the decision making process, and allowing, to get into that zone, I guess we can call that. So I see it as a self-care practice that we kind of diminish. Like it's, like you said, it's kind of like an extra thing. If you have time, I'm going to go do this. Oh, I'll just save that for the weekend when I have some more time. And I'm sure you believe the same thing. It needs to be woven into your day and make it a daily practice. Weave it into a couple of times a day, whatever, or not a day, excuse me, a week. and just allow it to serve you and relax and get your brain going and bring you to different solutions. I'm sure when you're done, your brain's going to think differently about whatever is happening that you stepped away from those few minutes.
Absolutely. And I don't like to put pressure on people in terms of you need to do this every day. It's a huge thing, especially in the writing community, and it's not
Yeah,
helpful.
that's true.
But what I will say is if you can even find 5 minutes, 5 minutes is plenty to keep your brain in a creative space. So even if you can only sit down and, take a couple notes on your project for 5 minutes, doodle a new sketch for 5 minutes, whatever it is. And, a lot of the time I'll tell people, look, decide that you're going to work on a thing for 5 minutes. And if you're on a roll, you don't have to stop unless, you only have that 5 minutes. But then at
Mm-hmm.
least you got yourself in that space and that will energize you to find more space to do
Mm-hmm.
more later, even if it's only the next 5 minutes. But if you do have an open-ended time block and you're enjoying what you're doing, you don't have to stop.
Mm-hmm.
But if you tell yourself that you're only going to spend 5 minutes, that also keeps that voice of pressure from making it feel like, if you say, oh, I'm going to spend an hour on this, there's a
Mm-hmm.
part of you that will
Mm-hmm.
just be like, oh, that's too big. I'm never going to,
Right, right.
5 minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
also, even like if you don't have 5 minutes today, but you are sitting on a train or a bus or in a really boring meeting and we won't tell, and you just let yourself think about your project for a couple of minutes. When you are thinking about the creative process, you are in the creative process. It's
Mm-hmm.
enough to keep it alive for you. And that can be a conversation with somebody over lunch. It doesn't have to be just thinking about it on your own. It can be an interactive conversation with somebody, who maybe is telling you about their project too. All of that will keep that process alive for you so that you are ready to jump in the next time you do have that
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes. And, once you've done 5 minutes for a while, you might want that half hour. You might be itching
Mm-hmm.
for the
Right.
half hour, and that's fine. But when you're just trying to build it up, 5 minutes is a perfect place to start.
Mm. Wow. We could probably talk an hour on this. But I want to ask how you came to this, how you moved towards that creativity coach. There's always a backstory to how people got to where they're at. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about that.
There is a story, and I'll try to keep it short because it could be a long story if I'm not careful. I was always a creative kid. I was always singing and acting and doing all of the things. I wrote my first story when I was in fourth grade, I think.
Wow.
Really took off with it when I was in high school. I had a teacher in 10th grade who made the mistake one time of asking when I mentioned that I was writing a Doctor Who story if he could see it. He was not expecting the first 10 pages to arrive in his classroom the next morning, and more the next day, and more the next day, and so on until I graduated. But that's what happened. And then I, wrote some in college. College is a little different. And then I got away from it, came back to it about 20 years ago when I was teaching, and was also the the advisor for the school literary magazine, but they wouldn't let me teach a creative writing class, which made no sense because where was the literary magazine stuff
Hmm.
coming from?
Really?
So I taught my English as a second language kids. And a lot of my other teachers, the other teachers in my school were like, but ESL kids can't do creative writing. And I was like, do you think that they had to hand over their imagination to fit the
Hmm.
English into their
Hmm.
brains? Because that's
Hmm.
not how that worked. So I basically said, you want to bet? Started including creative writing in my ESL classes. Got my MFA at the same time that the recession meant that my teaching job went away. And
Hmm.
shortly after that, discovered that creativity coaching was a thing. And by then, I was just kind of hooked on the whole thing. And I was like, oh, those seem like my people. So I did the training, and I've been playing with all of this ever since and kind of becoming a creativity evangelist of sorts and just
I
trying to
love
get
that.
people to do more creative stuff more often, which is really how the podcast came about, was just to hear more people's creative stories, especially, were you encouraged as a kid, or were you not
Mhm.
encouraged as a kid? And sometimes my guests have stories about that and sometimes they don't, but
And expanding that definition of creativity by tapping into all
yeah,
these people's stories
yeah,
and getting other people to see how the accountant is creative, as you already mentioned, or these other
definitely.
professionals that are creative. And so I love that you're expanding the definition or the breaking the stereotype of what most of us see creativity as. So if someone was curious about a creativity coach, like what do people come to you with, or why would they come to you?
People come to me if they are stuck on a project.
Hmm.
I talked to somebody a couple months ago because he's writing a book. He's not somebody who has a writing background, and he was just stuck trying to figure out how to turn all of his stories into a book. And so we did a one lock, one key session. And in about an hour, it was like, okay, this is why you're stuck. Here's, does this sound like the right step for you? Because I think this is what's going to unlock it for you. And I'm not in the business of just here's the answer, go do this.
Hmm.
It's got to
Hmm.
feel right to the other person, and
Right.
what I pull out is based on what they tell me. And he took it and came back 3 weeks later and was like, I'm writing now. This is all working, and that's what that session is for. And then, I do courses here and there, and I'm also right now in the process of setting up Imagination Lab, which is a story studio for middle school kids who love stories and writing, because still schools are not great at offering support for young creative writers within the school environment. So
Mm.
since I was that kind of kid, it's a good opportunity to help kids that age, especially in middle school when
Yeah.
confidence is kind of
Yep.
can come and
Yep.
go.
Yep. Yep.
To
Sure.
give them a place where they actually know that they are not alone and that they belong, and can learn some story craft and learn how to deal with things like perfectionism
Mm.
and procrastination and all of that at the same time in a nice little
Wow.
community.
I love that. And now, is this an in-person studio or is this an online
It's an
studio?
online
Oh,
studio.
it is online.
Yep.
Okay.
So there's no geographic restriction.
That's awesome. Wow, what an opportunity for kids to tap into something like that. So, thank you for giving that gift to the world and to that age group because, like you said, they need as much support as they can get. They don't think they do, but they do. That's a really
They
rough
do.
time.
Yeah.
Tell me about this one lock, one key before we
That's the
finish
illumination
up.
hour. It's meant to just take one thing that's getting in your way, and we sit
Oh,
down and talk about it, and you tell me what's going on, and I help you figure out what the one key is that'll help unlock that situation and get you moving again the fastest.
wow. That sounds like anybody, that would work for anybody. And like it doesn't matter your profession, your career, your job, lack
Yep.
of age, gender, we all come into a point in time where we need just a little bit of help
Yeah.
to get through that or to get over that or whatever.
Yeah. And through April, I'm offering that at a pilot price too. So,
Ooh, cool.
yeah.
So we will definitely share all of that information with the listeners underneath or with this recording. So make sure you look for that. So, where are you? Where can people get a hold of you? Please share that information.
So
And we're
my
still going to attach it, but I want you to share.
My website is FY Curiosity, so FY for Follow Your, and the podcast is Follow Your Curiosity. And I'm FY Curiosity on most social media. On LinkedIn, I'm just Nancy Norbeck instead. So just I say. And
Which
I
is good
do,
enough. That's awesome.
exactly. And I do also have a free 1 hour creativity circle once a month that
Mhm.
anybody can come join us, and we just hang out and we work on our own thing, and we have a little social time in the middle, and that's been going pretty well since I started at the beginning of the year. We would love for people to come and join us. So,
Great. So
yeah.
somebody could just show up, even if they don't think they're creative, come with a coloring page or
Yeah,
whatever, and just sit in that, those creative juices, that creative energy that other people are spewing off, and just maybe get some inspiration possibly.
you could. I mean, it's very low pressure. If you're not sure what your idea is, I always provide two prompts and you can
Mm,
use them or not use them or use one of them, use both of them, however you see fit. You can do whatever you want, but sometimes prompts really help people and sometimes they
mhm,
don't need them. So you can do it your own way. You are your own creative authority, just
love
providing the
that.
space and the community.
Mm. Oh my gosh. This has been so insightful, so enlightening. I'm sure lots of people will get a lot of things to think about from this episode, and I so adore what you're doing out there in the world. I said I was a teacher, I was an art teacher, as a matter of fact, so I love the whole creativity piece, and maybe we can offer the viewers the opportunity to look in their world, look at what they're doing, and see if they can see those little bits of creativity that they might not have seen before. Hopefully, this gives them a new perspective to look at themselves and what they're doing. And if that's an, if that has inspired them, that would be enough, I think. But I really hope our viewers and our listeners go and figure out how they can tap into your, what is it, your curiosity circle, a creativity
Yeah.
circle. Go check out Nancy, even if you have no clue, like I said, what your creativity thing is, what's your, yeah, just check her out anyway, because this is much needed in this world, I think. And if you know a young person that might benefit from that, from your imagination studio, check that out as well. Thank you so much, Nancy. You are awesome. I said I love what you're doing for the world, so thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Everybody who's listening in, thank you. And we will see you on the next episode. Bye bye.